play?
I play alto sax.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I can double and stuff, but my main is alto.
Okay.
So yeah, I have a few questions for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So first, I would actually really, because I've been checking out a few albums of yours. It was one album, I can't remember the exact name, but it was like a live. Actually, I have it right here. Uh, the live at the Rockwood Music Hall. I was
Yeah,
checking out that
sure.
album, and then I was checking out one more, and I was just wondering. I would like to know like who inspired you to make music. Like, could you name like your top like five most influential records?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I would have to say Sarah Vaughan was one of my biggest influences.
Hmm.
There was a record that she did with the Clifford Brown Quintet that was one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I learned Shuli Boop,
Hmm.
which was a song that she scattered on. And I loved it because it was so cool how she introduced the band and incorporated improvising with them, but at the same time, kind of just having fun, but
Right.
using her voice as an instrument and scatting. And I remember like each solo verbatim, and she'd be like, Roy, Haynes,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, man, that's so hip. And she's like, yeah, we. Like, oh, she's continuing the conversation
Yeah.
like it didn't stop. But that's one of my favorite records. Of course, Hubert Law's In the Beginning on CTI.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorite records too, because I was originally a flautist starting
Hmm.
out. And he inspired me because he did things with the flute that I never heard done before. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, I heard Herbie Mann on the record with Sarah and Clifford Brown, but he played it so differently. His sound
Hmm.
was different. His concept of improvising was very different. And then he was using a modulator, which I was like, whoa, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And his compositions, they would always kind of take you on a journey, which for me, I love composers that do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Chick Corea, Return to Forever, Light as a Feather.
Yeah.
Again, Joe Farrell, he's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, he played on flute and on saxophone. It's funny because when I first got introduced to him, it was actually through flute, of course, when he was playing Spain. And a teacher of mine told me, "Oh, you should check this out." And I didn't even know he played saxophone. And I was like, "Okay." And I tried. Mind you, I'm like 13, 14 years old, trying to transcribe, and it was my very first time. And I just remember just sitting there and just like giving up after the first two, three parts because it was just
Yeah.
so good.
Right.
But eventually I got it together. But,
Right.
he was just a consummate musician on the saxophone and the flute. And of course, Chick Corea, his compositions were just incredible. And then eventually I learned about a record that Joe Farrell did with Elvin Jones,
Yeah.
Trio.
Trio.
That's a bad record too. And then, of course, Dexter Gordon, Go.
Go. Yeah.
I mean, that was the album that made me want to play saxophone. I mean, hearing his sound, he sounded so big on his horn. And for me, I was about, how old are you?
I'm 18.
You're 18? Okay. I started playing tenor around 14, 15. And at the time, there were no other girls playing tenor. So when I played the tenor in the band, I felt really embarrassed because it was such a big instrument. It was so low. There was no other girls playing it. And when I heard
Yeah.
Dexter Gordon, it made me forget all of that just because his sound was so rich and fat
Exactly.
and huge. And then I didn't know at the time that he was like 6'4", 6'5". And in my head, he sounded like a tall guy because he was playing like that. Even though I never saw a picture of him. And for me at 14 years old, I was like, okay, I want to play being 6'4" when people hear me. And when they open their eyes, they see me. But when they close their eyes,
Right.
they see me being super tall. But
Right.
he got me inspired and motivated to try to sound bigger than life on an instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah, and confident too.
Yeah, I can second that. I actually, when I get asked a lot who is my most preferred like alto player, I have a most preferred alto player, but I
Okay.
spend a lot of time transcribing Dexter because
Yeah.
just because the lines that he plays, they're so strong. Just the feel. Sometimes he's not, he wouldn't be what you would consider particularly on the beat, you know, but he wasn't dragging either. It's a groove.
Mm,
And that's something like, that's something you have to learn to feel, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. He had a way of playing. His feel of the beat was behind, but at the same time, it was always right
exactly.
there. And then his sound, of course, was just so big. Like I remember I was talking to my mentor, Antoine Roney, and he was telling me how he saw Dexter Gordon in person. Of course, this is before you and I were even around. And he told me that the sound that you hear on the recordings was nothing like the sound you would hear in person. And in person, if you were up under his bell, you literally would be blown away because the sound was just so in your face. But then, of course, when you stand in the back of the room, it's just like, man, his sound is huge.
Right. Yeah, I actually gotten a chance to speak with his wife.
Man, Maxine.
Yeah, and she would say the same thing. Just the records wouldn't do, they'll do justice, but they just wouldn't be able to convey that frequency,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And of course, the last album, I'm sure you know Betty Carter.
Yeah.
The audience of Betty Carter, that's one of my all-time favorites because she she had a way of playing, of singing with the band like she was playing with them with her voice. And
Yeah.
the arrangements, she was a bad composer and arranger. And then, of course, the rhythm section was just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great record. Yeah. What else do you check out?
I really am working on right now transcribing. This is a project for myself, the Charlie Parker and Strings
Mm-hmm.
album. I
Yeah.
also I also really am digging the Sonny Stitt plays Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
Uh I can't remember if that's a full album in its own or if it's like a created thing on Apple Music. It's a little confusing on here, but I also I really just like a lot of Sonny Stitt too.
Yeah. Me
I
too.
Yeah, the Boss Tenor album with him and
Gina,
I can't. Yes, Gina
girl, are
Evans.
you on
Yeah,
the right track?
yeah. I couldn't think of it, but
Yeah.
I could say the exact track that would be my favorite would be I actually no, I can't do that. I can't pick a favorite, but I know they have there's no greater love, and what is this thing called
Uh-huh.
love, and it's just I've like I don't know, me personally, I love to listen to a million different recordings of a tune before I even attempt to make my own rendition of a tune, just
That's like it.
because I feel like the definition of no has gotten a little misconstrued over the time. Like I feel like I don't actually know a song unless I can sing the lyrics, to tell you the chord changes, the melody, harmony. Like
Exactly.
yeah, I just feel like that's important. I feel like I kind of went on another tangent, but
No, you're right.
yeah,
That's how it's supposed to be done.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's good that you're listening to those great records. Boss Tenors is one of my favorites, especially when they do the medley.
yeah,
Ooh, when they do Misty and I Want to Talk About You, and then they mix
yeah.
it together at the end when they're both playing. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I heard that record, I thought I was going to lose my mind just listening to them.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also I'm really digging the Barry Harris live at Doug, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah, Barry Harris. He has a lot of. I don't know. I just love listening to piano, by
Yeah.
herself because I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, no,
You can
that's
get a
great.
lot of different ideas from an instrument that doesn't require actual breath. More so, they can see it, so
Hmm.
they may construct different lines than we construct.
Yeah, I mean, they're still breathing. It's just like you said, the nature of the instrument makes it so that there's like what I would play on saxophone is going to feel or lay out a little differently on piano and vice versa. Like
Yeah,
there's some solos that you could check out on piano that if you transcribe it and play it on a saxophone, it's going to be like, whoa, because, well, it was played on piano and you're going to have to find your own way of adapting it to saxophone. But yeah, I would check out, there's a great record of Stan Getz and Kenny Barron did together. It was just an all duo record that I remember checking out as a kid. That's amazing. I used to check out Bud Powell, Art Tatum,
yeah.
just harmonically what they were doing. And of course, Bill Evans.
Oh
He's
yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's good to check out other instruments, and I encourage you to please keep doing that because, like you said, it gives you another perspective, and then it also teaches you how to understand that other instrument too. So
Exactly.
even if you don't become uh, a full blown pianist, at least you understand harmonically what your options are, so
Right.
that when you tap into it, you're able to connect and play in a way that frees you a little more than if you just only have one understanding of a linear approach to playing
Right.
and the whole harmonic sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much you could talk about in regards to that question that I asked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm proud of you for checking out all the records. You're on the right direction.
Yeah. I feel like it's just really important to listen.
It is.
Just yeah, it's really important.
Yeah.
But in regards to like organization and structure, what
Mm-hmm.
what would you say your practice routine is like?
Um, okay. Well, I like to split it up into sections. One thing I love to do is, of course, start out with long tones.
Yeah.
And this is great because it builds your embouchure, and of course, it builds you with endurance. And of course, there's different ways of doing it. One way Walter Blandon taught me how to do it is literally just playing. I hope my headset doesn't fall off. Literally playing as long as you can for as quiet as you can, and keeping it so that the pitch is consistent, but you're holding it so that the goal is if you can hold it till you feel like you're about to die, hold it even more.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you feel like you're about to die, grasp for air and then go straight to the next
Go
note
right
a
back.
little longer, right? So it'll be something like this. And of course, you hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. But the idea is to master that control. So as you go down, sorry, my dog isn't here. The idea is to master that control so that you can keep the consistency with the pitch and
Yeah.
the air. Because the lower you go, you're going to realize it's going to get harder and harder because the tubing is longer.
No.
And then vice versa, when you go the other way, It's going to get harder to control because the tubing is getting shorter, and you have to really control that air with a consistent velocity of speed. I'm telling you, the sax, well, any instrument, but particularly the saxophone, is amazing because you're dealing with physics and you're dealing with sound, but then you're also dealing with vibrations, and it's just,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. The long tones are great to do because it's kind of like a way for you to become one with the instrument and figure out
Right.
how do you get to the center of your sound and make that core foundation in your sound. But then, of
Yeah.
course, that's one step. The other step that I would do is scales, which I'm sure you probably already deal with.
Yeah.
There's an exercise where you can literally loop the scales, or like if you go up one scale, but then go down, up the next scale,
The
and
next
kind of,
skill.
yeah, there's all kinds of really cool exercises. One book I like, it was a book by Jackie McLean. I can't think of the name right now, but he had a really great book that he released years ago, and I love it because he writes out all these different great scalar exercises to practice and incorporate. But I love to do that daily because it gets your technique together, and it also gets you to be nimble. So once you get over your majors, you do your minors, you do your harmonic minors, and you do your double diminished, and then of course you do all the other scales out there in the world that exists too. But do that every day, and of course with the metronome, I'm sure you do that, right?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, try to make sure that the tempo that you set is good for all of the scales. So then
Yeah.
that way you're able to gradually get faster, because, you know, a lot of times we cool with F and B flat and E flat, and we rip through it. And then when we get to that C
And
sharp,
then other kids would be like,
we clubbing them suckers when we shouldn't be doing that.
right?
So it's always a good practice to make sure if you could do it in one, do it in all consistently at the same tempo, and just work your way up. And I think people hate it because it seems boring, but in actuality, it's the best thing in the world for you to do, because believe it or not, you're building your time.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next thing I would do, which helps with building my time, is I would work on a transcription, anything that I'm particularly working on. Like I love particularly George Coleman. He has this album called Playing the Changes. And there's a song called Moment's Notice he's been doing, and I've been dealing with that, which has been fun because we all know that song, but then it's like his approach to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, of course, the fourth thing I would do, like I was mentioning to you, practicing with the metronome, playing through changes. Because you're training yourself how to build good time and play by yourself without accompaniment. And then also it's teaching you, how can I nail harmonically what I'm trying to say without supportive instruments with me? And the best way to judge that is by recording yourself. So you put on that phone, press on a record, set the tempo. Like I was doing this a few months ago on The Night Has a Thousand Eyes. And it was cool because in 1 week, I was able to not just strengthen my time, but then I was able to play around with starting on different parts of the beat when I play. Because then I'm realizing, oh, maybe I need to start coming on the end of 3, or maybe try some phrases coming on the end of 2, or downbeat of 4. And it gives you some ideas to play with so that when you're soloing, you don't get stuck into one way of approaching rhythm.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then your time, like for me, I started at one tempo, and then I ended up the end of the week, I was like, whoa, this is pretty killing. I feel like I lifted some weights and I could speak clearly.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way of just practicing playing. getting your language out, being able to speak with your horn, but at the same time be very clear with your time. And then of course the fifth, but we're at number 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fifth thing I like to do, I love to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Find stuff that inspires you harmonically and just explore and figure out what's that sound, what's that chord, what's that shape, what's that color,
Right.
and try playing with it. And watch some videos too while you're at it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually is really helpful because we have similar practice schedules. I found like I found it a little bit more challenging to have like more structured practice when I went into it just as like, okay, I'm gonna pick my horn up and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Where instead of being like, 15 minutes long tones, 5 minutes a break, 20 minutes
Yeah.
scales, So yeah, I just wanted to just confer with you about that, but that just confirmed for
Yeah.
me that that is an okay way of doing things.
Yeah. The most important thing, I think, especially for you, because you're young now, set goals when you're practicing,
Yeah.
and that'll keep you inspired to keep going. Like I would keep a little practice journal, and I would just jot down, okay, long tones, 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Right.
Okay, scales. I might spend maybe 30 minutes or maybe an hour if I'm really feeling amped. Maybe 30 minutes on just all my scales, running them up and down. And then another 30 minutes going through my arpeggios, trying to make sure that my fingers can get around. And then maybe another hour working on the transcription. And then an hour working on learning a tune, playing through the changes. So that way I'm setting it up so that it's structured. So every time when I come to practice, I know exactly what steps I'm doing, but what it's working towards, and I'm giving myself a goal, whether it's learn new tunes by the end of the week and be able to play in all 12 changes or 12 keys, whatever. Yeah, write it down.
Is there anything that you felt you should have spent less time on in like your early years of development or more time?
More times practicing, less time with my ex.
That's good advice. Nah.
Yeah, when you were young, listen, I know you're in high school, you're probably about to go to college, right? Or you in
Oh no,
college?
this is my second year of college.
Oh, girl, good for you. You're 18. Dang, good. Okay, well, listen, and this is for all the other kids out there in high school and college. Spend your time practicing as much as you can, okay? Don't let no knucklehead take up your time. Because when you get older, life happens, and then you have to pay bills, and then you have responsibilities, and then your time to practice becomes this to this. You're literally fighting. And in some cases, if you play an instrument like the drums or whatnot, and you live in a city, you might not be able to practice in your space.
Exactly.
You have to rent a space to go and practice. So really take this time right now to be selfish for your practice time.
Exactly.
Don't feel bad. Try to play with as many people as you can. Surround yourself with people that are inspired and are hungry to learn just like you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not surrounding yourself with people that are kicking your butt and sounding better than you, what you got to ask yourself, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of answered like 3 of my questions, and and because another question was just going to be, what advice that you would give to like young women wanting to do, what you do?
Again, fight for that time to practice and to get to know your instrument. I believe that's the best thing in the world that you can do for yourself as a young woman, because in this society, we have a weird, strange way of associating gender with roles. And for young women, particularly, if you do something for yourself, or like, oh, if you don't get married at 23 and have kids, what's the purpose of you being a woman? Or, oh, well, if you decide
Right.
to, I mean, it's up to you ultimately what you want to do. If that's your vision, then great. But if you have aspirations and dreams to be like, I want to be a musician, or I want to be an artist, or I want to be a doctor, or whatever it is, it's okay to not give in to what the normal social expectation of you is to be. You don't have to do it. For me, when I was about 15, 16 years old, I dealt with a lot of insecurity and confidence issues because I didn't see other girls playing the saxophone like me. And then on top of that, I was dealing with some bullying and some sexism at school.
Exactly.
So it took me having mentors to really encourage me and push me to, one, be confident, two, feel good about pouring into yourself that time of practicing and perfecting your craft. Because that's the only time you're probably going to have to really do it and to do it as much as you'd like to. Again, like I said, life happens later on.
Right.
So you want to take advantage of that time. And so what? If your girlfriends want to go to the mall and you want to practice, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. That's why trust me. That's why I just really make it a point to just live for me, you know?
Yeah, live for you.
Like, it just came to a point where it was like, am I willing to sacrifice, like, you know, mental happiness or like even success for, you know, at the expense of others or what others want? You know,
Yeah.
I'm not willing to do that. So
no, because you matter.
exactly.
You have value and you're important. And the things that you're achieving are just as important, if not more, than what outside people might want to put on you. Those expectations.
They project all those different expectations on you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I was your age, I didn't see other particularly Black women playing the saxophone. And I didn't know it existed until I was 22, 23 in college. And I first met Tia Fuller. And I was like, oh, okay, so you can be a woman. And in my case, okay, you can be an African American and play jazz and sound incredible. And that inspired me to get my crap together. Like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do. This is what I want to do.
That's
so
funny.
Chase it, do it. Don't feel bad.
I had a sort of a similar experience with Tia. She just kind of motivates you to want to be the best you need to be.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for me too when I was coming up, like playing saxophone. I kind of had to educate myself on other more melanated saxophone players who are female, because I mean, I'm not going to speak, I can't speak for all schools, but like most schools don't teach, you know, most don't teach that. I don't like to make generalized statements, but
yeah,
those, you know, it's not as, it's just the times we're living in, like. But then I started doing my research, and I started seeing like Tia, I came across like Terry Lynn, like not even just like saxophone players. It was like this whole other world of like female musicians that just like you gotta like uncover and be like, whoa, okay, like
something very important right there. You have to uncover, and that's what makes it beautiful, because you have the hunger and desire to find out more information. You weren't just waiting for it to fall in your lap. And that's the best thing in the world you could do. That's like the first lesson that you could learn, that you could carry with you for life. Do for yourself. Like, find that information. If that's something that you want, don't take no for an answer. Seek it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of segues into my next question, though. The question was, do you feel that there's a double standard in the industry? And judging from like what we just kind of said, do you feel like there's a double standard in the industry?
That's a big question.
Yeah, it could.
And in one aspect, yes, the industry, but then also if you look at a bigger picture, the world. Yeah.
The world. Yeah.
Because
and that's I'm sorry, it's just kind of a broad question, and it's just gonna be like, if so, like, what steps would you take? Will we take as a community to bridge the gap of gender equality?
Yeah. Well, the first step is we have to change those things that we designed to be norms.
Exactly.
Like even starting in the beginning when you first play an instrument in the band room, we can't approach students and say, okay, here, you're a girl, you can only play the flute.
Exactly.
We should be able to say to boys and girls, hey, we have the flute, we have the tuba, we have the trombone, we have the trumpet.
Right.
What would you like to play? And then from there, give the support to them and helping them learn the instrument. I think a lot of times we put genders on things like, oh, well, guys play trumpets, girls play flutes.
Titles.
But that's not the case, actually.
Right.
And in fact, if you do your history, if you check out the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, they're one of the baddest big bands in the world, all women, playing trombone, trumpet, saxophone, piano, bass, and drums. And you had a female band leader. So it's important in the beginning to instill those values and change those. My brain is going blank right now, but to change those gender rules that society sets up and say, listen, this is what's available to men and women. You're not any less than or more than a guy or a woman for playing something that's different. And then, of course, support, mentorship.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, because it's just, for a long time, like, it just, I would consider it, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to generalize it and say it's a male dominated industry, but like, just as far as like the music industry, I felt like for a long time, it was just like, you could stop yourself from conforming into those gender roles, if you know what I'm saying. And I felt like that was my motivation to go so hard every day, because I'm only like 4'9". I'm really small.
Me too. So,
yeah, I'm really small, and I don't, you know what I'm saying. I'm not gonna say I have a complex, but no, I just want you to be able to hear me with your eyes closed and not see this little kid that I look like,
I completely understand.
But yeah, I just feel like it just was really important to understand, like, at the end of the day, like, that the double standard it'll stand as long as you allow it, if that makes sense.
And then also you have to acknowledge it, because the other problem I find too, sometimes we focus the conversation on, okay, the dude's got to understand that you can't judge a woman for playing blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, well, to be quite honest, it's women too. Sometimes we project things intentionally and unintentionally because society has created this system where we're perpetuating things without even knowing it. Like, I'll never forget, I did a concert with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. And Sherman, who was the lead alto player, somebody approached him and was like, oh, it was so nice that you let that young lady, that little lady, take a solo. That was so sweet. And he told me afterwards, he was like, I had to tell her and educate her in that moment and say, listen, we're all up here because we all can play. And she took a solo because she can play a solo, not because we were being nice and polite because she's a little lady and we wanted to give her a few choruses. No, she's here just as much as we are here to do the same thing at the same capacity. And that's what it takes. I'll never forget, I did a show and they had a set where we were up elevated. The band was elevated and Maurice Hines was on the bottom, was with Diva and Sherry Maricold. Diva Jazz Orchestra and Sherry Maricold. And I'll never forget, they gave me a little a cinder block or something because we were sitting on these chairs, but the transition was I had to take a solo and come back down. But I'm up in the air, and on top of that, the chair is super high, if you understand what I mean. Your feet can't touch the leg. So to be safe, they gave me a little cinder block so I could stand on it and just literally do that and sit back down. And I'll never forget, some somebody, I think it was a reviewer, wrote in the review, oh, that was so cute and so nice that they gave the little lady a little stair step. And I'm like, what about what we played?
Yeah.
What about the fact that we're playing music and that we're trying to play music at a high level as a person, but
Exactly.
you're making it about me being a woman and being cute and stepping on this little stand to take a solo and a little curtsy, when it's like, no, it's about the music. So as a community, men and women, we have to check ourselves and make sure that we're not speaking in a language or perpetuating, whether it's through teaching our children or even preserving history and writing it, that we're not pushing these principles that put us in a box.
Exactly. Yeah. There's such a topic that could just go so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, another question I had though was, and this kind of ties into like we were just talking about your experience at Jazz and Lincoln Center. Basically, how was your experience? How has your experience been playing with Wynn Marsalis, as well as like your first time hitting at the Jazz and Lincoln Center?
It's been an incredible journey. I've been hitting with them for 2 years, and it's been such a learning experience. Before I worked with went in the jazz orchestra, I was working with my own band, but then also with a lot of other artists. And this was the first time, I guess, in this particular situation where I got to work with a touring big band that tours around all year round. And I think it was, I guess it was a big issue because it was the first time in 30 years that they had a woman full-time play. So on one end, there's that feeling of that 13, 14-year-old little girl inside you that's like, I gotta do it right. I don't want to make a mistake. You know how your brain is going constantly. But then at the other end, there's that mature, older woman that's like, all right, let me roll up my sleeves. I'm ready to learn. What do I need to do? And that has been such a rewarding experience because it's really helped me to be open and honest with myself and comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially as a young woman, when you're playing and you're dealing with being the only lady in the band, you have to learn how to be comfortable and confident with yourself, even in those moments when you might not feel 100% comfortable and confident. Like for me, I had to learn how to learn lots of music in a very short amount of time, spanning a whole 100 years or so of our jazz history. And the first thing, of course, you want to think of is panic. Because you might have 2 rehearsals with them, you hit on the road and you got like 40, 50 tunes to learn. But it taught me how to really hone in on what I know, but then also be honest with myself and say, okay, this is what I need to figure out. This is what I don't know. How can I get to know it now? Yeah. And let me strategize. Bing, bang, 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 boom. And if there's something that I have a question about, not being afraid to ask. Because a lot of times with women, especially particularly young women, we feel like we have, if we're the only woman in that situation, and if we're young and we're trying to figure it out and don't have the mentors, the first thing we're thinking about is I can't make a mistake because the guys are going to look at me. The other thing we're thinking about is, okay, I don't feel comfortable or confident, but how am I going to do this? And then the other thing is, well, I'm scared to ask questions. Right. I knew for me, that was not going to happen. It's like, no, you're not 13 years old. You cannot do that. And it made me really open up. So if there was something I had a question about, I went and asked my mentors, like, hey, we're doing the music of such and such and such and such. I hear it, but I feel like there's something I'm not getting. Oh, check this out. You need to check out. Okay, bam, zoom in, go back and get it. Yeah. And then of course, even within the band, if there was something I wasn't sure, I knew that I could speak up for myself and get whatever the information that I needed to be able to handle the task. Whether it was talking to Victor Goines and saying, hey, we got this clarinet passage, which finger are you using, this alternate fingering, or are you using this to be able to make it smooth? Because I hear what's happening, but this might not work in this situation because of blah, 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 or whatever the case was. And then if you're not sure, ask, well, I'm not clear. Can you give me a direction of who I could check out or who I can listen to, because I want to figure it out. And I found that, I guess, that made it a lot better for me, because it wasn't so much the weight of, oh my gosh, I got to figure this out, I'm alone. No, it was like, okay, I could target this problem and I could figure out how to strategize and pinpoint what I need to do to get to where I need to go to be able to get it.
Yeah. I also, I was actually really curious to ask you this. In relation to your record, Sassy's Blues, back at live at the Rockwood Music Hall, I noticed like it started with you scatting. I don't know if your answer to this will differ from the first question I asked, but do you have any advice for musicians who are learning to scat? Like, and if so, like, what are the benefits of being able to do so, and what steps did you take to be able to do so?
Yeah. If you're trying to learn how to scat, the best way to do it is to just sing. I didn't learn how to scat by having a book of ABCs of syllables, the scat like doobie doo, boppy boo. No, I was just listening and trying to match my voice as much as possible to what I heard. And whatever syllables came out of my mouth that worked for getting as close as possible to the shape that I was listening to, that's what it was. And I think when you're trying to learn how to scat, and whether you're a singer or you're just a musician that's trying to add something to your playing to be able to learn, you got to be comfortable with the fact that everybody has their own way of scatting.
Yeah.
You don't have to scat exactly like Ella Fitzgerald, because that worked for Ella. The syllables that work for her might not work for you. And you might have to figure out what works for you, because physiologically we're different. And then, of course, the way we feel music is different. Plus, she's Ella and you're you. Exactly. So find a way of listening to the music in a way where you can absorb it, but be able to still be yourself and have fun figuring out what works for you and effectively having your voice come out. Yeah. Transcribe as much as you can, whether you're a vocalist or an instrumentalist, because it's going to teach you how to access command of your instrument from what you're hearing to being able to speaking it. It's like we have a saying, if you can think it, then you can speak it, then you can become it. And it's the same thing with playing. If you can hear it and you can speak it, then it becomes you, because you're able to access it and insert yourself into the story and now add on to it. So I would just say check out as many people as you can. It helps you to hear intervals. It helps you to hear phrasing. It helps you to understand the story of what's going on with the improvisation. Do it as much as you can. Any and everything I get, music, I sing it, because that's how I lock it in. Yeah.
Yeah. And sadly, this is coming to the end. I have one more question left, because a lot of the questions I had we just kind of segued into, what it happens when we have a good conversation.
Yeah.
My last question was just more so of an everyday life question, just as far as like, how do you balance your craft with other obligations, as far as like mental health, spouse, children, if you have any, job, real life,
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a balance. I don't have children.
Okay.
One day. I have a dog, but that doesn't really count. it's like what I was saying to you before. It's important for you to realize your value and
Mm-hmm.
to protect that time, because especially as you get older and you get busier, you want to make sure that whatever vision you have a plan and an idea and understanding of what it is and how you want to get there, so that you're effectively using and managing your time to get there. And even if that means having to implement reminders throughout the things, activities that you do to help you stay on course, it's very important that you learn that skill at a young age, because as you get older, like I said, things happen. So preserving your practice time as a sacred time. It's like if you're religious, you pray because that's part of your meditation or your daily thing to kind of center you. Practicing is like that. It centers you, it keeps you. Because the reality is when you go on tour, you might not have time to practice. And you might have to find how the practice of learning how to access and instantly get to your center is going to be essential, because you might not have 2 hours to do that. You might only have 15 minutes, or you might literally have that moment on stage.
Right.
So find that now, figure that out. Of course, if you have a vision and a goal, set a plan. For me, it's funny because I spoke it to my mentor, but I didn't know that it was going to be a reality. I remember she asked me once I got out of college, she was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a saxophonist, vocalist that tours all around the world and performs. I want to be an educator. And I said, I want to work at the Jazz and Lincoln Center Orchestra. And I was 22 and I left it alone. And I just let life kind of take me on a journey musically. And somehow I ended up by fate doing this. So be open to the fact that you have an understanding of what it is that you want to do, but allow yourself to go on the journey too, and take notes, be conscious of everything, and always keep a little note in the back of your head, because it's going to come to a point where you're going to have to refer to that when you get those moments where you have to make those decisions, or you have to figure out what that next step is. But monitor that time. It's sacred. It's sacred. If you your time, it's a reflection of you respecting yourself.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you taking this time out and coming and chat with me.
Of course. And if you ever want to chat with me some more, you can get my info from the guys.
Yeah.
I'm happy to stay in touch with you.
Okay, that's cool.
That was great. That was great.
That was amazing. I learned a lot about both of y'all's experiences. I appreciate being able to just eavesdrop on that and just hear, just hear what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question, Camille? Sure. You didn't study music in college, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so that's true. So you have like a geology degree or something?
Yes, I do.
So can you talk about like the experience of like getting a degree in like outside of music? And like how like do you think like how did you like, do you think that helped or hurt, or how did that experience foundation for you do today in relation to all of your peers who went to Juilliard and Manhattan School and Berkeley and have $400,000 in student loans?
Maybe not as much.
You don't have to. Maybe you don't have to reference the student loans, but no. But I'm just curious, because like I guess for for a lot of us young musicians, or at least for me growing up, like I was like, man, if I don't go to Berkeley, I'm never gonna be able to tour with, do the things that which is complete BS. So I was just wondering how you felt about that.
Yeah, it wasn't actually my intention. I went to performing arts high school, and it was the same kind of concept of, I got to get into a music school, and if I don't get into a music school, it's the end of the world. But you're only 16 or 17. So for me, as I mentioned, I had a really tough time my last 2 years in high school, but myself and a couple other girls were dealing with some sexism and some bullying. And by the time I graduated, I was just kind of like, I'm done with music. I don't want to play anymore. I'm over it, because I was just really burnt from that situation. And I ended up scoring really well on my Regents exam, which was Earth Science. And I told my mom, I was like, well, I don't know where I want to go. And she was like, just apply for a local community college. And at the time, I went to Hunter College. And they had a really, really good program there. And a lot of times, if you did your first year or two there, you could transfer and still be cool. So I did that for my first year, and I got an A, my first college course in geology. And I was like, whoa, okay, I think I'm good at something. And I transferred to Binghamton University, and I ended up just getting a degree in geological studies.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
did you have, was there like a plan as to like, were you going to go into a different career?
Yeah. At the time, for the first 2 years, I thought I was going to be either an environmental scientist studying, like doing testing and sampling water, or being like an epidemiologist or something like that, or being a volcanologist. That was like my extreme dream, because my volcanology teacher, he was incredible, and he always told us the stories of all the places that he went to and climb all these volcanoes, and I wanted to do that.
You wanted to go out to Hawaii and hang out with the volcanoes.
Yes, I wanted to do that.
I grew up in Hawaii, man. You should still do it, even though you're not a volcanologist. I highly recommend it. But I just want to also ask you, what's your favorite Dexter Gordon solo? Because I'm like a Dexter, man. Dexter's my dude too, and I just, every time I hear his sound, it just makes me smile.
Oh man, you gotta go to Second Balcony Jump.
Second Balcony Jump, that's it?
Balcony Jump, man. Because I love all the other stuff. Like I guess I'll hang my tears to dry, and so but Second Balcony Jump, it was like what I was saying. He had a way of playing with his language that was so witful, but smart, but ingenious. So you're listening to the playing, and you could hear the little quotes that he would pull from other songs, as if it was like a joke that he was kind of like instigating with the rhythm section. And of course, Sonny Clark on drums, and like the whole band was just killing. So it made me really want to play like him, because I was like, man, if he could play with that command and with that wit, I want to figure that out.
So Camille,
and my internet went dead on that answer, but I'm gonna rewatch the video to see.
Camille, I got one last question for you, and we'll let you get up out of here. So I think that all successful people have to deal with this three-headed monster, success, perseverance, and failure.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, because you have so much success, but people rarely ask, like, how did you get there? So how did those other two things play into your success?
Okay. I'm starting to feel the post-30. So you said success.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. And failure. Okay, for perseverance, oh man, that's the lesson you get from Jump. I'll never forget, as a kid, I would walk around my saxophone, and people would be like, you play that? Yeah. Pull it out right now. Let me hear you play. I don't believe you. You can't play. And in my head, I was just like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to beat you behind and take this horn out and blow circles over you. But, of course, being 4'9", too, you feel like extra. You want to do that. Right. But that always gave me the energy to be like, oh, yeah? Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to study and do what I have to do, so that I'm going to catch you when you're not looking and take you down.
Okay. Right.
But then, of course, failure. I've had my failures too. I'll never forget. I got recommended to tour with Beyonce. And I thought I was going to get the gig, because all my friends were in the band, and all my the whole horn section was like, yo, you gotta get Camille. She just did Black Girls Rock. She's working with MD right now. She's killing. She got ears. She could do it. She could do it. She could dance in 4-inch heels. All that. And I didn't get the gig. And for the longest time, I was like, what did I do wrong? But my best friend had talked to me, and she told me, she was like, look, every gig is not for you. And sometimes it has nothing to do with how you play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could be an amazing player, but if it's not the fit, if that's not what the person is looking for, if that's not what they're dealing with, don't take it personally. Keep on going. Don't wear that weight on your shoulder, because that has nothing to do with you. And it taught me that important lesson of don't worry about what other people think or worry about pleasing people. You play because you love it, and because this is a great legacy that you're honored to be able to carry and continue. So if it's not for you, don't worry about it. Just keep honing your craft, and your gift will make room for you.
Absolutely. I love that. Hey, Kirsten, you write that down?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate both of y'all, man. That was great. And I learned a lot. Greg learned a lot. We hope all the people out there did.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, guys.
Wanted me to play for a second?
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Oh, please.
I hope it sounds okay, because you know this mic is crap.
Oh, it sounds good.
All right.
I'm gonna dip out here on the video.
Kill it.
That translated so well over that mic.
That was amazing.
Man, but what you were playing was so bad. I don't even care what the mic was. It was so killing.
Right?
Oh, man. Man, that was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and sharing all of your knowledge, experiences, and wisdom with us, with Kirsten, with everyone who's watching on Facebook. Again, y'all checking out Second Line Arts Collective. This is our online virtual masterclass. Thank you everyone for watching. If you guys, we're bringing this to you for free. in part by a generous donation by the Jazz and Heritage Foundation here in New Orleans. So we do ask that you guys please donate to Second Line Arts. There's a donate button on our Facebook page, and even if you $1, $5, $10, 50, 100, 10,000, 1 million would be really killing. But man, everything helps to making this possible. And again, the money is going directly to creating programming for students here in New Orleans and everyone here online. So thank you again so much to Camille, Kirsten, Darrian. Man, this was amazing.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thanks for doing this program.
Yeah, thank you.
This is awesome. And Kirsten, like I said, give me a holler whenever you want to.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get your info, or I might just pop up in your Instagram DMs one day.
All right.
There you go. All right, y'all. See y'all later.
Awesome.
All right.
Guys. Later.